So you're thinking of moving to Las Vegas, but wondering, is now the right time to buy, to rent? Is the market gonna crash? In this video, we're gonna go over all of that, so you'll know whether or not now is a good time to move. So let's get after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about Las Vegas, living in Las Vegas, moving to Las Vegas, and the Las Vegas real estate market, go ahead and hit subscribe, tap that bell for notifications, and you'll be the first to know for everything going on here in the Las Vegas market. Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm a former attorney turned real estate professional who's had roots in the Las Vegas area since 1981. And every day, my team and I get phone calls, texts, and emails from people just like you looking to make their move to Las Vegas. And if you're looking to move in the next 9 to 90 days, go ahead and shoot me a text, send me an email, or book a Zoom down below. All my information's in the description below. And I'd be more than happy with me and my team to make your move as smooth as possible. So let's talk about, is now a good time to move? It seems like everything's in flux, everything is in confusion. We don't know, is now the right time to buy? Is now the right time to rent? Is the market gonna crash? What is the real deal here? All right, so let's talk about it. Over the last 2 years, in 2020 and 2021 during the coronavirus pandemic, things got a little bit odd, shall we say, in so many different ways, and the housing market was no different. So one of the things that happened during that time is that home prices here in Las Vegas, as well as most of the country in general, have been on fire. Why? And what does that mean? Okay. From 2020 to 2021 and 2021 to 2022, we had 20+% year-over-year appreciation in home prices. That sounds like a lot, and it sounds like, wow, the market must be overheated. Well, it may not be totally accurate. Okay, so to do this, we have to go back and look historically at home prices here in Las Vegas. We'll just stick to Las Vegas in particular because that's where I focus. If you look at home prices from 20 years ago, the average median home price from 20 years ago to 2021, you'll find that if you look at those two numbers, they've appreciated at exactly the rate that you would expect home prices to appreciate over time. And that is about a little bit above 4% per year. So if you just took that number from 20 years ago to today, you'll see that home prices have raised exactly where we wanted them to, 4%-ish a year, year over year. What happened during that time to make it feel like the home prices just jumped up in price? Well, we had the 2008-2009 big reset in housing. And it did affect Las Vegas house prices quite considerably. In fact, we had a big drop in home prices during that time. Then we had a pretty decent recovery over the next several years. But then in 2019, 2020, 2021, things really started to pick up with the coronavirus. And they've brought the prices back up to where they would be if you just had a straight line of 4% appreciation over that time. So we had that little blip in the middle there that caused things to go depressed lower than what they should have been. Okay, and it made the correction back to the upside feel like it was a big correction. In truth, if you bought your house in 1981 or 1982 and you would be expecting an average home price gain of about 4% per year, you'd be in exactly the right position as where we are today with home prices. So it's not really that big of a correction when you look at it over the long term. And when you go back over the 50-year term of prices here in Las Vegas, you'll see that that same growth pattern of 4% a year has remained steady over a 50-year period of time. So we just caught up from the 2008-2009 correction and the 2008-2009 crash, our home prices have just caught up to where they historically should be right now. So yes, the prices did go up dramatically, 20% year over year for those last 2 years. And that caused a big sticker shock to a lot of people here. And it gave, if you bought during that time, it gave you quite a bit of equity. But if you were to just have held from, like I said, if you bought in 1981, 1982, and you held that entire time, you'd be happy. You'd be getting the exact return that you would have expected on your home during that time. So what that means is that really home prices are where they should be now, today. Now, I know it doesn't feel good because, you know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you could buy the home at a depressed price. And when it's actually accurately priced to where it should be, it feels a little tough. And I understand that. But that doesn't mean that you should stay out of the market expecting another big correction like 2008, 2009. That probably isn't going to happen, and for a variety of factors that we're going to talk about here. So the next thing that we want to talk about is the economy in general right now. So I'm shooting this in spring 2022, and things are going a little bit goofy here. Our inflation is rising significantly. Our interest rates are rising a little bit as well. So let's take a look at those two factors. Let's look at the interest rates. During the pandemic of 2020, 2021, the Fed lowered interest rates to keep the economy moving as well as it could during that time. And they depressed the rates down to, again, this is similar to 2008 with the home prices when you had a big drop. You had what isn't a real drop, but a artificial and forced drop to below market value. And you had the rates under 3%. In 2018, the average mortgage rate on a 30-year mortgage was a little more than 4.5%. Today, as I'm shooting this, it's about 5%. So we're not too far off from where we were pre-pandemic as far as interest rate goes. And what we do know is that the Fed is going to continue rising interest rates because we have the corresponding inflation that was caused by all that cheap money and all the government spending during that time. So you have a couple of those factors balancing with one another. You have rates going up to a way that the Fed is using to try and curb the inflation that they created by artificially dipping the rates during the pandemic. So now they have to overcorrect and make them a little bit higher to bring that inflation number down. What we're going to see is that the inflation numbers for the remainder of the 2022-ish year probably will go up a little bit more during that time as we balance the economy and get it into an equilibrium of healthy growth. Again, and that healthy growth looks like the 20-year and 50-year average median home prices going up at 4% per year. So the Fed is trying to balance that issue right now. And what we don't want is them to overcorrect and go too high, but we don't want them to undercorrect and have inflation spiral out of control. And everything, including home prices, will continue to grow at too rapid of a rate. We want that slow, methodical growth over time with our money growing and our assets growing in value over time. We don't want those big corrections. So that's what's happening now. So what does that mean? It means that the money is definitely not as cheap as it was before. So what you're going to find is that the market is going to stabilize, and instead of that hockey stick 20% growth, you're going to level off and you're going to get closer to that historical average of the 4% per year growth on your asset price, your home price year over year. It doesn't mean that we're going to see a big crash. That's not going to happen, and I'll get to that reason in just a second. The rising interest rates will tame the speed of the growth in home prices because money isn't as inexpensive as it was before. So money is more truly priced when you go to get your mortgage as what it was before. When you have the interest rates down here, you know, and it's cheap, you can afford to pay more, so people were overpaying and overbidding on certain properties. Now, that had the corresponding factor of bringing those property values up to the historical correct number, but during that time, we aren't going to, or during now, we're not going to see that same level of growth on home prices with a depressed value. So you're going to see the interest rates creep up a little bit, and you're going to see that level of home price growth, the 20% year over year that we had, is going to flatten out a little bit. And what I see happening is things flattening out. I don't see a correction happening. And one of the reasons for that, there's actually two big reasons for that. Number one is our underwriting guidelines for mortgages have become increasingly more difficult. It's a lot more difficult to get a loan this time of around than it was in the 2008-2009 time. In 2008-2009, we had a lot of strange mortgage products out there. We had a lot of strange underwriting policies in place where basically they called them breathing loans. If you could breathe, you could get a mortgage. Now they're looking, does this person have the economic ability and capability of paying off this loan over time? They look a little bit more in depth at your employment history, your taxes, what you bring home, your debt to income ratios. Those things were absent in 2008 and 2009 and what caused the bubble of that time. So we don't have that part in place anymore. Also, we have very low unemployment and we have tons of jobs available. So there is a lot more work available. There's a lot more, the economy is a lot more structured now than it was in 2008, 2009. It's backed by more than it was during that time. So you can see we're a little more on solid footing with the economy. We're on more solid footing with our mortgages. So you'll see that all those economic indicators where you were getting too much and you couldn't afford to pay your mortgage because they were just giving out money without knowing that you could back it up, that for the most part is gone now. The second and more important thing, I think, is the lack of inventory. So currently in our market, we have, at the time of this video, we have about 1 month's worth of homes for sale inventory on the market to compare to what home sales are. What does that mean? It means that in the period of a month, all those homes that go on the market are getting sold that month. There's just not a lot of inventory available, and the inventory that does come up gets turned very quickly and it gets sold very quickly. Part of the reason for that is for the past 10 to 20 years, new home build has not kept up with demand. So we have less actual inventory. Forget the homes on the market. We have fewer homes just in general as an absolute number. So without all of the inventory, and let me go back, a good stable market is about 6 months worth of inventory. A buyer's market is more than 6 months, a seller's market is less than 6 months. Right now we have 1 month of inventory on the market. But that inventory shortage, we just don't have enough homes. We don't have enough new homes. We don't have enough resale homes. So you're going to continue to see that the prices are not going to dip and crash because there's just not enough inventory. The interest rate number and the home appreciation number is going to level off, and you're going to get that more stable 4%-ish growth instead of 20% or a negative 15, 20, 25% like we had in 2009. Actually, we had lower than that, negative 50% in some cases. It's just not going to happen because the inventory for the population is not there. There's going to be more demand for houses than there are houses available, which is going to keep the prices from, even with the higher interest rate, stable. Okay, not dipping down, but because there is that demand, it's going to keep it stable. And you're going to see close to that 4% growth rate and you're not going to see the 20% year over year like you did, and you're not going to see that big dip. Let's get to the bottom line. Does that mean it's a good time to buy, a bad time to buy? Should I rent? All right, rents. Let's talk about that. Again, rents are similar with the inventory. We have less rental inventory available, and it's a very competitive market then. So we have less rental inventory available and more people wanting to rent, which is going to continue to drive the price of rents up even farther. So you have to do the calculus and you have to look at it and see, does it make economic sense to rent or to buy? With rent, you don't get any equity. You're just paying somebody else's mortgage off every month. May not be the best strategy for you. You may want to be paying that in even with the higher interest rate and be getting something back for that, especially because we're expecting things to level off and go for that historical 4% growth. If you put money in today, you're going to see that money, if you buy, grow at 4%, your equity grow at 4%-ish over time. Again, these are just my thoughts on the issue and what I see and what other economists see happening here in the market. So if you rent, you're going to see that money that you're paying every month in rent, instead of it growing at 4%, you're going to see it just go to the side. It's not yours. It's the person who owns the home. It's the person who owns the land that you're on. Yes, you are renting and you're paying that and you don't have the other costs associated with it, but you're not going to have any of that appreciation either. At the end of the day, and this is what I said at the beginning, if you look at the 20-year, you look at the 50-year median home prices, you'll see it's a pretty straight line. Not really. You can see that 4% a year over time, over a period of time, is always going to be about what real estate grows at. And if you get in now, regardless of where you get in, and you see that 4% growth over a year, you're going to have appreciation over the long time. The bottom line is, don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. Over time, all of those corrections, that 2008 dip, that 2008 crash, it's corrected itself within 12 years, okay? So we see that as long as you can hold the property, and if you're making this your home base and you want it, it's never a horrible time to buy real estate. Over time, if you let that time span go long enough, you're going to see that the value of your home should increase to meet the historical averages of that 4-ish%. It's just a great investment and one that you should not be deterred from. Look, if you have to make a move, you have to make the move. You should not be throwing your money away in rent. You should be buying regardless of where we're at in the cycle, where we're at in the interest rate cycle. It's always a good time to buy and hold over that long term. You're always going to have an appreciation according to the historical averages. So I hope that this kind of gives you a little bit of safe feeling that, you know what, the market is not going to crash. We don't have those fundamentals that caused the 2008 crash. We do have fundamentals that show that inventory is going to continue to be a scarcity, which is going to continue to make the home prices increase. I don't think over the course of time here at that 20 to 25%, when there was the artificial cheap money and cheap interest rates at that time. But I think you're going to see a historical average, and you're going to see a return to normalcy of the home prices. So I do think now is a great time, continues to be a great time to buy real estate. And as the interest rates go up, and some buyers, look, I'm not going to fool you, some buyers are going to drop out because of the interest rates. But if you need to and want to move, it is still a fantastic time to buy. And you actually are going to get a little bit of an edge on the buyer's side versus what you did over the last 2 years. If you buy now in today's market and today's trends. So that's where I see things going, and I know this video is a little bit different than all of my other videos where we go through neighborhoods and we go through homes, but I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of my take on what the market is going to do here over the next 1 to 2 years in the Las Vegas area. I still think it's a great time to buy. I still think this is a fantastic place to move, and I think you'll love it here. So that's it for me. If I don't see you in the neighborhood, I'll see you on the next video.